In the midst of the year's most luxurious wedding, billionaire William Harrington is about to say, "I do," when a street girl interrupts the ceremony with a devastating shout. "Don't marry her." Silence fills the church as Amara reveals something no one expected, exposing a secret that could change everything. Get ready for a twist that will show that not everything that glitters is gold, and that true love can come from the most unexpected places. William Harrington had always been a reserved man, but his imposing presence did not go unnoticed. At 40 years old, he was the picture of a billionaire who built his fortune from scratch. Born in a humble neighborhood in Newark, William lost his parents in a car accident when he was still a teenager. Since then, he faced the world with determination. He worked simple jobs while studying, and it was with great effort that he founded his first technology company. Today, he owns an empire that spans various sectors, from technology to luxury real estate. In the eyes of New York's high society, William Harrington was the perfect example of someone who rose from humble beginnings to the top. His name was always associated with the biggest charity events and the most exclusive parties. However, despite all the glamour surrounding him, he always felt an emptiness. For him, success without love was just an empty shell. It was at one of these charity events, held in one of the luxurious halls of the Upper East Side, that William met Claire Monroe. She was stunning. Long golden hair, deep blue eyes, and a natural elegance that set her apart from all the other women present. Claire, with her sincere smile and gentle demeanor, captivated William immediately. Unlike many around him, she seemed genuine, interested in him as a person and not in his fortune. Claire Monroe was 35 years old and a respected figure in high society. The daughter of a diplomat, she grew up traveling the world, living among the greatest cities and experiencing the best and worst of luxury life. However, unlike many of her contemporaries, Claire did not let herself be corrupted by the superficiality of money. She was involved in social causes, dedicating her time to charity projects and helping the less fortunate. It was this passion for doing good that led her to the event where she met William. The relationship between William and Claire blossomed quickly. They became the most admired couple in New York society. For William, Claire represented the true love he had always sought. He believed he had finally found someone who loved him for who he was, not just for his wealth. Claire, in turn, seemed enchanted by William. She saw in him not just a powerful man, but someone kind and generous who used his wealth to do good. After a year of dating, William decided it was time to take the next step. He planned a magnificent proposal, a private dinner atop one of Manhattan's most luxurious skyscrapers, overlooking the entire city lit up at night. It was there, with the lights of New York shining in the background, that he made the proposal. Claire, moved, accepted without hesitation. For William, that moment sealed what he believed to be the beginning of the life he had always dreamed of. The wedding was set to take place in one of Manhattan's most luxurious churches, St. Patrick's Cathedral, a symbol of tradition and opulence. The reception would be held in the grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel, one of the city's most iconic venues. Every detail was being meticulously planned, and William wanted the wedding to be the event of the year, gathering the wealthiest and most influential people in New York. As the preparations progressed, William found himself increasingly anxious. He wanted everything to be perfect, not only to please his bride, but because he believed that this wedding would be the fulfillment of all his dreams. He imagined Claire walking into the church, stunning in her wedding dress, and feeling that, finally, he would have everything he desired: love, happiness, and a family. But behind Claire's serene smile, William did not notice the shadows that were beginning to form. He was about to discover that the perfect life he so longed for could be more fragile than he imagined. Amara always knew that the world was harsh, but the cruel reality of the streets of New York taught her lessons that no child should have to learn. At just 10 years old, she was an orphan wandering alone, forgotten by everyone. From a very young age, she lost her parents in a car accident that left her not only without family, but also without the love and protection of a home. Since then, Amara has survived as best as she could, sleeping in stacked cardboard boxes in dark alleys and feeding on what she found in the trash of the city's big stores and restaurants. She was a black girl with dark skin, unkempt hair, and large eyes that reflected both the innocence of childhood and the wisdom of someone who had faced many adversities. Amara was smart and observant, traits that kept her alive in a world where many wanted to see her disappear. Despite the constant hunger and the cold that penetrated her bones, she never gave in to despair. She carried the emotional weight of having been rejected by families that could have adopted her. But what hurt her the most was the loneliness. No one ever looked at her and saw a child in need of love and security. On the morning before the grand wedding of William and Claire, Amara wandered the streets of the Upper East Side, an area of New York where poverty and wealth coexisted in a brutal contrast. She watched from a distance the luxurious buildings and expensive shops, dreaming of a day when someone would take her out of that hell. But, as always, reality was different. While searching for something to eat in a trash bin, she noticed two men approaching. Lying on the ground in an alley, Amara felt fear rise through her body. The men were laughing and staring at her, slowly advancing in her direction. Instinctively, she hid in a nearby alley, trying to stifle her breath and push away the panic. As she crouched behind cardboard boxes, Amara heard the men's footsteps stop. They were speaking in low voices, but their intentions were clear. Amara was about to be discovered when, by chance, a woman appeared at the corner of the street. She was elegant, wearing a beautiful dress that contrasted with the dirty surroundings of the alley. Amara recognized her immediately. It was Claire Monroe, the bride of billionaire William Harrington, a figure admired by all in high society. Amara was frozen. Claire quickly approached, speaking to a man who was waiting for her leaning against the wall. Amara, still hidden, squinted her eyes to try to hear what they were saying. The man was short and had a cold look, unlike William, who Amara always saw in photos smiling and kind. Amara remained curled up behind the crates, her heart racing as she tried to understand what she had just heard. Claire, the woman everyone admired in high society, was plotting the murder of William Harrington. With every word that came out of her mouth, Amara felt more horrified. She had never imagined that the perfect bride could be capable of such cruelty. Claire spoke with a coldness that chilled the air around her. She described, in sordid detail, how she intended to get rid of William and take all of his fortune. Amara held her breath, forcing herself to listen. The woman mentioned William's luxurious mansion on the Upper East Side, his various investments and bank accounts scattered around the world. Everything William had built with so much effort was about to be taken by Claire in a brutal blow. After the accident, it will be easy to fool him, Claire said, her voice calm and calculating. William trusts me completely. As soon as everything happens, I will be the only one responsible for everything. He will never suspect anything until it's too late. The man beside her, whom Amara still couldn't see clearly, responded in a deep, controlled voice. This is risky, Claire. We need to make sure everything is perfect. One mistake, and we could lose everything. Claire, visibly impatient, interrupted. I can't wait any longer. The wedding is tomorrow, and I want everything to happen before he notices anything. Trust me, he won't suspect a thing. After the wedding, I will be free and can live as I've always dreamed. Amara felt her stomach churn upon hearing those words. Claire wanted everything to happen immediately before William, blindly trusting his fiancée, could notice any sign of betrayal. The girl knew that what was being planned was something very serious. Claire was orchestrating a murder, and William would be the innocent victim. The man hesitated, seeming to ponder Claire's words. I need more time to prepare everything. We can't fail, Claire. If everything goes right, you will have what you want. But we have to act with caution. I don't want to wait any longer, Claire insisted, her voice now louder, revealing the frustration she had been holding back. I want this resolved before the wedding. If you can't do it, I will find someone who can. Amara, still hidden and breathless, realized she needed to act. But how could a 10-year-old girl, alone and without resources, prevent something so terrible? She wasn't sure how, but she knew she couldn't just stand by. William Harrington, the man many saw as a cold billionaire, was also someone she viewed as a possible savior. Someone who, despite everything, seemed genuinely good. Now, she had the responsibility to warn him. But who would believe a street girl? Claire's evil plan echoed in her mind. And more, Amara felt overwhelmed by an urgent need to do something. But what could she do against a powerful and manipulative woman? With a heavy heart and a confused mind, Amara decided she needed to tell someone. But who? She looked around, searching for answers amid the chaos of her thoughts, as the weight of the discovery threatened to crumble everything she knew. The big day of William Harrington and Claire Monroe's wedding had arrived, and Manhattan seemed to shine even more brightly under the spring sun. The ceremony was set to take place at the imposing St. Patrick's Cathedral, one of the most luxurious churches in the city. The guests, all prominent figures of New York's high society, were already settling into the dark wooden pews, admiring the grandeur of the venue. The atmosphere was festive, and everyone expected the wedding to be the event of the year. William stood at the front of the altar, elegant in his dark suit, with a smile that reflected his happiness. He looked down the central aisle of the church, anxious for the entrance of his bride. Claire, in a stunning wedding dress, with a delicate veil covering her face, was expected to appear at any moment, and William believed that this would be the happiest moment of his life. The ceremony promised to be luxurious, full of traditions and solemnities, a dream come true for the billionaire who had finally found love. The church bells began to ring, and everyone turned to the aisle, where Claire started walking toward the altar. The white dress, with fine lace and a long train, made her look like a true princess. William felt his heart race. He was sure that after this day, his life would be perfect. However, deep down in his happiness, there was something he did not know that was about to change everything. Just as William was about to say the long-awaited "I do," the solemn silence of the church was abruptly broken by screams. A disheveled girl, in torn clothes and with a dirty face, burst into the temple, running toward the altar. It was Amara, the girl who roamed the streets of New York, and her unexpected presence caused an immediate shock among the guests. "Don't marry her. She will kill you," Amara shouted, tears streaming down her face. Her voice, though trembling, carried an urgency that reverberated throughout the church. All eyes turned to the girl, perplexed and suspicious. Two security guards immediately approached, ready to remove the intruder, but William, still stunned, raised his hand to stop them. Something in Amara's desperate expression caught his attention. He needed to know what was happening. "Calm down, girl. What are you saying?" William asked, his voice low but firm. Amara, trembling and with a voice barely audible, began to tell her story. I saw her in the alley with a man. They were planning your murder. She wants to take all your fortune, sir. She said she would kill you after the accident, and that you would never suspect anything." Amara stammered, trying to control her sobs. The church fell into absolute silence, and the tension in the air was palpable. All the guests, who moments before had been immersed in the glamour of the ceremony, now looked at the girl with disbelief. Claire, who had remained serene until then, immediately began to deny the accusations. "This is ridiculous. That girl is lying. William, you can't believe a street orphan," Claire exclaimed, her voice loud and nervous. Panic began to mix with anger on her face, and William, still in shock, started to process what Amara had said. "I heard everything. I heard you in the alley," Amara insisted, her voice now more assertive. "She was talking to the man about your wedding, and how she was going to kill you to take everything. She wants your money, sir." Amara's words echoed through the church, and the shock on the guests' faces turned into murmurs of disbelief. William, who had always believed he had found true love in Claire, felt his world crumble. The expression of betrayal began to take over his face as he looked at Claire, who was now desperately trying to regain her composure. "This can't be true," William murmured, but deep down, he already knew that something was very wrong. The church security surrounded Amara, but William protected her, recognizing the seriousness of her words. Claire, realizing that her plan was about to be exposed, began to collapse, her facade of the perfect bride crumbling before everyone. The church, once filled with smiles and celebrations moments before, was now enveloped in an atmosphere of tension and shock. William, struggling against disbelief, knew he needed to act. Amara, with her sincere and terrified gaze, had brought to light a dark truth he had never imagined to be real. The wedding of his dreams was about to turn into a nightmare, and the lives of everyone there would never be the same again. The atmosphere in St. Patrick's Cathedral was one of pure tension. Claire, who was desperately trying to defend herself against the accusations, began to lose control as despair grew on her face. Amara can't prove anything. She's just a child trying to get attention, Claire shouted, her voice trembling with anger and fear. But William, still in shock, was starting to doubt everything he believed. Amara, her body shaking with nerves, knew she needed to do something more to convince everyone there. With tears streaming down her face, she shoved her hands in her tattered pockets and pulled out an object. It was the diamond necklace that William had given to Claire on their engagement day, a magnificent piece of jewelry symbolizing his love and commitment. Amara held up the necklace, which sparkled almost unrealistically under the church's light, and all eyes immediately turned to her. "She dropped this," Amara began, her voice choked but determined. "I saw her in the alley, talking to the man, and the necklace fell when she turned around." She was so focused on what the man was saying that she didn't notice the necklace had fallen. Amara raised the necklace, and the silence in the church became profound, almost deafening. The shining necklace was the evidence everyone needed. Amara continued, "This necklace is yours, sir. You gave it to her on the engagement day. If she was in the alley with the man, then everything I heard, everything she planned is true." William stared at the necklace and then at Amara. Shock and disbelief washed over his face, but soon they were replaced by contained fury. He turned to Claire, who was now pale and speechless, her face beginning to contort in despair as she realized her plan was crumbling. You deceived me," William said, his voice trembling with anger and betrayal. Claire, who had been trying to maintain her composure until then, was visibly shaken, tears beginning to slide down her face as the impact of the truth hit her. The church, which moments before had been filled with celebration, was now plunged into absolute silence, everyone present shocked by the dramatic turn of events. William looked at Amara, who was still holding the necklace, and saw the sincerity and fear in her eyes. That girl, so fragile and alone, was trying to save him from a tragedy. "I can't go on with this," William shouted, his voice echoing through the nave of the church. "This wedding is over." He turned to the priest, who was as stunned as the guests. "Please cancel the ceremony. I can't marry her." Amara, still holding the necklace, felt a mix of relief and fear. What she had done was too big for a girl her age, and there were still so many uncertainties about the future. But now, she knew she had to be strong. William, with a broken heart but determined not to be a victim any longer, decided to end the marriage that could cost him his life. Claire, now in complete collapse, began to plead. "William, please. I didn't mean to. I didn't think you would find out." Her voice was a mix of desperation and anger, but no one there believed her words anymore. The mask of the perfect bride had fallen, and everyone saw Claire for what she truly was. That ceremony, which was supposed to be the beginning of a dream life, turned into a moment of shock and revelation. The life of William Harrington, and everyone around him, would never be the same. William Harrington was devastated. He could hardly believe what had just happened, and the shock still reverberated through his body as he looked at Claire, now unmasked in front of all the guests. The betrayal cut deeper than any physical wound, and the feeling of loss was overwhelming. He was about to marry the woman he believed to be the love of his life, and now he discovered that she had plotted his murder out of greed. "How could you, Claire?" William said, his voice muffled by the weight of disappointment. "How could you plan something so horrible against me, someone who trusted you completely?" His gaze was one of disbelief and pain, and the guests around began to realize the gravity of the situation. The faces of those who had once admired the couple were now twisted in shock and disbelief. Many simply could not believe that Claire, the charming and sophisticated woman, could be capable of such absurd cruelty. She had always been seen as the perfect bride, the ideal companion for a billionaire, and now all of that seemed like a grand farce. Claire, realizing that the people around her were starting to doubt her, tried to justify herself. "This is a misunderstanding. Amara is just a crazy child trying to get attention. She doesn't understand what she's saying." Her voice was loud and nervous, but as she spoke, she realized that no one believed her words anymore. Despair began to take hold of her, And William, with eyes burning with anger and sadness, decided to end it once and for all. "I expel you from my life, Claire," he declared, his voice firm. "You can no longer be part of anything that I am. Leave my house, get out of my life, and get out of this church now." The silence in the church was broken by the sound of Claire, furious and defeated. She began to scream, her voice echoing through the temple, mixed with tears of rage. "You will all regret this. I will take revenge on all of you." Claire left the church, still shouting, as the guests watched, stunned. Those threatening words hung in the air, and the festive and celebratory atmosphere of the morning transformed into a feeling of relief mixed with fear. What Claire had said seemed like something out of a movie, but Amara, still holding the necklace and with her heart racing, knew that things were far from over. William, still in shock, turned to Amara, who was now at the center of everyone's attention. The girl, with wide eyes full of tears, felt the weight of her discovery, but also the relief of knowing she had done the right thing. She knew that what she saw in the alley would change everything, but she was also aware that Claire could still be a threat. Murmurs began to spread through the church as the guests processed what had just happened. Many approached Amara, trying to understand how such a small and fragile girl could have saved William from a terrible fate. But Amara, still trembling, only repeated what she had heard the day before, describing in detail how she saw Claire talking to the man in the alley, planning the scheme to kill William and take his fortune. "She spoke coldly about how she was going to deceive you, sir," Amara said, her voice low but firm. "She said it would be easy because you trusted her. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know how." William, touched by the girl's courage, felt a new determination rise within him, not just for himself, but for Amara, who had put her life at risk to save him. He knew he had to protect that child and ensure that Claire could no longer harm anyone. As the reality of the situation began to settle in everyone's minds, the gravity of what Claire had planned became increasingly clear. The lives of William and everyone around him would never be the same, and the weight of Claire's revenge still loomed over them like a shadow. Days passed since the scandal that shook the wedding ceremony of William Harrington and Claire Monroe. Despite all efforts to move on and try to resume his life, William couldn't get Amara out of his mind. The street girl, with her sincere gaze and unexpected courage, had saved not only his fortune, but also his life. He felt he needed to do something for her, but he knew finding her would be a challenge. Amara lived on the streets of New York, a place where disappearing was as easy as being forgotten. Determined, William began asking homeless people and shelter-goers if they knew the girl who had interrupted his wedding. After days of searching, he finally received a lead that took him to a dirty alley near Central Park, where many said they had seen a small, lonely girl. When William arrived at the alley, his heart raced at the sight of Amara leaning against a cardboard box, wrapped in tattered blankets. She looked fragile, yet still had that air of resilience that had impressed him from the very first moment. With steady steps, he approached her. "Amara," he said, his voice gentle. The girl looked up, recognizing him instantly. "Are you okay?" She didn't respond immediately, just stared at him with suspicion. William could see the fear in her eyes, and it broke his heart. "I came to find you," he continued, crouching down to be at her level. "I want you to come with me. I want to take you off the streets." Amara, still hesitant, shook her head. "Why would you do that?" "No one does anything for free," she said, distrust evident in her tone. William sighed, knowing that gaining her trust wouldn't be easy. "Because you saved me, Amara. You risked your life to tell me the truth about Claire. I want to thank you, and the only way I know how to do that is by offering you a safe place to live. I want to take care of you." After a long silence, Amara finally agreed, but cautiously. "All right, but if you try anything, I will tell," she threatened, but there was a slight tremor in her voice. "I promise, Amara. You can trust me," William said, and with that, she accepted the invitation. He took her to his mansion on the Upper East Side, a world completely different from what she knew. Amara was both dazzled and scared at the same time. The hallways were wide, decorated with artwork and luxurious furniture. Everything there felt like a distant dream. William showed her new room, a large space with a comfortable bed, wide windows, and a closet full of new clothes. Amara could hardly believe what was happening. "Is this all real?" she asked, still suspicious. Yes, it's all yours now. I want you to feel at home, William replied with a smile. But Amara was still overwhelmed and confused. Why are you doing this? She asked, her voice barely holding back tears. Because you saved me, Amara, William said, kneeling to be at her level again. You not only saved my fortune, but also my life. And I want to make sure you have a better life. Amara, with tears in her eyes, finally began to realize that William truly wanted to help her. But still, a part of her couldn't believe that someone so powerful and wealthy could be genuinely kind. She knew the world was cruel, and people like her rarely receive help without a hidden agenda. In the days that followed, William did everything to take care of Amara. He took her to a doctor, provided new clothes, and enrolled her in a nearby school. For Amara, each small change was a shock, but at the same time, she began to feel something she hadn't experienced in a long time: hope. But behind her facade of gratitude, Amara carried doubts. She wanted to believe that William was different, that he really wanted to help her, but the fear of being abandoned again kept her from opening up completely. And as her new life began to take shape, the dark past and Claire's betrayal still loomed over them like a shadow, promising that nothing would be as simple and safe as it seemed. Amara was slowly adapting to her new life in William's mansion, but inside, she still carried the emotional scars of her past. Each day brought new experiences and challenges, from the simple act of taking a bath in a warm tub to sitting at the table for elaborate meals. At first, everything felt like a dream, but the memories of the streets and the deep-seated distrust in her heart prevented her from feeling completely at ease. She spent hours exploring the enormous house, but always with a sense of caution, as if everything could collapse at any moment. Amara often sat in her room, looking out the window and remembering the dark alleys where she had spent her childhood. The luxurious silence of the mansion was uncomfortable for her, as she was so used to the noise of the city and the daily struggle for survival. William, noticing Amara's internal struggle, decided he needed to do something to show her that there was redemption and justice in the world, even after everything that had happened. One day, he called Amara to talk in the garden, a green and tranquil space filled with flowers and tall trees. Amara, I want you to know that the necklace you found and gave me, I'm going to sell it, William said, looking into the girl's eyes. And all the money I get from it, I will donate to charities that help street children like you. I want you to know that even after everything that happened, we can do something good with it. Amara fell silent, processing what William had said. She had never thought that the necklace, which so symbolized Claire's betrayal, could be used for something positive. Why do you want to do this? She asked, still suspicious. Because I want to honor what you did for me, and because I believe there are ways to find redemption, William replied. I want you to know that even amidst evil, we can choose to do good. William's words touched Amara's heart, and for the first time, she began to feel that perhaps she could trust this man. Over time, they formed a strong bond. William became not only a protector, but also a father figure that Amara had always wished to have. She began to open up, sharing her fears, her insecurities, and gradually, that empty space inside her began to be filled. Meanwhile, Claire faced the consequences of her actions alone. Expelled from high society, she watched her life crumble in a matter of days. The people who once admired her turned away, and she was left to live on the streets she had so despised. The arrogance she had when she thought herself superior to everyone was quickly replaced by a harsh reality. Claire, now without money and support, began to feel firsthand what it meant to be vulnerable. The story of William and Amara was reaching a new beginning. On a quiet night, while looking out the window of her room, Amara saw the sky filled with bright stars. With a light heart and full of gratitude, she whispered a silent prayer, thanking for finally finding a family that loved her and for finally feeling that perhaps she could have a better future. Thank you, God, she said softly, closing her eyes. Thank you for giving me a second chance. And so, with the promise of a new home and a future full of hope, William and Amara began their new life together, ready to leave the past behind and face whatever tomorrow would bring. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. These other stories will also move you. Click to continue watching.